Hi, welcome to Mobility Prosthetics YouTube. Today we're going to talk about mental health, support groups, peer support, family support. These things that honestly, when I first lost my leg, I didn't really recognize that I needed. So like my previous videos, my previous video explaining my amputation, I lost my leg 15 days after turning 21. And so I was a young, healthy guy, I really was kind of stuck in that place of like, I can handle this, emotionally, I got this covered. And so I really didn't feel like I remember going to the doctor and like my therapist, my physical therapist saying like, hey, we have a trauma specialist here if you want to speak with them. And I remember I don't feel like I need that. I felt like I was doing pretty good. At that time in my life, I was pretty good at disassociating. So I didn't really even register what happened to me for a long time. It was just kind of like going through the steps of, I need to go to physical therapy, I need to work hard, I need to learn how to walk. But then once I learned how to walk and like was done with physical therapy and everything else, that's when it did get hard emotionally, and when I started to, realize like, okay, well, now I have one leg and I know how to use it, but what am I gonna do with the rest of my life? And I started, when I would go to physical therapy, I realized, I started making friends at physical therapy. I would leave PT and end up sitting in the lobby for another hour or two talking to the patient that was after me or the patient that was before me for an hour, 2 hours. It didn't really matter. It was just like, oh man, it was at the time I felt like, oh, I'm helping this guy, figure out how to do this. And that was therapeutic for me too. And so after a little while, I realized that there was no support group at the University of Utah, which is where I was being taken care of. And so I got together with my physical therapist, Spencer Thompson, and we created a support group here in Salt Lake that meets at the last Tuesday of every month. Still, we started that at least 10 years ago, maybe 11. And so it's been successful. And, a lot of times when I talk to people about support groups in general, I get I don't need that same way I felt. I didn't need it. It doesn't really matter the person or the situation. A lot of times people feel like I don't need that, or they're interested in it, but it's intimidating. I think we all have this idea of what a support group or what a group of people sitting around talking about their feelings looks like, and I think we all kind of associate that with pity and negativity and everything else. And I don't want to go sit around one Tuesday of every month and like everyone pity ourselves. Like we all sit there and think about how hard our lives are, and then we all leave knowing that we have hard lives. That's not the goal of the support group. And so really Spencer has done an amazing job of continuing the group and building it to what it is today, where it still has a healthy group of members that meet every month. And a key that I think that Spencer has made this group different than other support groups, because there was a support group years ago at the University of Utah, but it turned into kind of that type of pity party where people would go and they just complain about things, and people would end up leaving the group feeling worse than when they got there. And so I think in a support group setting, it's important to have some sort of education, and I think that could be anything. It could be a prosthetist. Sometimes we'll have a prosthetist come and talk about technologies that they're using, or we could have a manufacturer come and talk about new devices they're creating, or a nutritionist and come and talk about, hey, how do you maintain your body nutritionally after amputation. And so we typically have some sort of presentation for like a 45 minutes to an hour at the beginning of the group, and then the last 45 minutes to another hour is spent talking about things that we deal with and things that are hard. And like I said, I don't, people shouldn't go anywhere and pity our situation. We shouldn't pity our situation ourselves. I mean, we have to go through that at some point, but that can't be a lingering emotion, right? That can't just stay forever. And so I think that there is value in going into a positive setting and relating with people that are dealing with things that are similar to what you're dealing with. I find value in meeting with somebody that is maybe 65, 70 and is an above knee amputee too, but he's focused on things and is worried about things that don't even cross my mind. And it really helps me figure out, okay, well, maybe that is something I should consider, or maybe it's something I need to think about for later on in my life, or maybe it's something that would help me today, but I just didn't consider it from that perspective. And I do find a lot of value in that for myself personally, but also for the people that, I see that group, everyone goes there, and some of us go there most of us go with a smile, but some of us come during a hard time. And usually by the end of that 2 hours, it's like, wow, okay, I could do this. And I do find that is super valuable, even for me who, 10, 11 years ago, I didn't think that I needed any type of emotional support. And it doesn't feel like emotional support. It feels like I'm going and hanging out with people that deal with similar things that I deal with. And that's really all that it is. It's not an amputee group. It's a people group, people that have amputations, and we go and we talk. But I also think that something that we've done from the beginning with that group is invited family members, invited support members, invited even prosthetists and care members, because when you lose your limb, it doesn't just happen to you, it happens to everyone around you as well. It happens to your wife, it happens to your kids, it happens to your parents, it happens to your siblings, and it's hard for everyone to deal with emotionally. I know in my situation, in some ways, my parents, my siblings, the people around me had a harder time learning how to adjust emotionally than I did in some ways. That I do think that's true. And so there's also times where that person that is helping you, which especially right after amputation, you have to have help. And it's frustrating to be in that situation, especially if you're somebody like me and you're really independent. You don't want help, you don't want to be kind of catered to. It's hard to get those things, and so it creates frustration, and it creates hard times between those two people. And understanding if somebody else's mom comes and talks with my mom, or somebody else's wife comes and talks with my wife about how they handled a certain situation, or my wife can say, this is how I handled Alec, and this is how we kind of communicated together and set boundaries so that we knew that the frustration wasn't at each other, but it was more at the situation, and all those things are valuable. And so I think it's good for us as amputees to be there, to be around people that are like us. I also think it's important for our family members to be there and to be around other people that are like us and other people that help people like us. And it's good for everyone to just kind of see what's possible. That's another great thing about a support group. Last week, our support group was a climbing event, and so it was really cool to go and see, amputees that are young and active and healthy otherwise climbing this wall and shooting up this wall. But really what is cool is seeing people that I've worked with that are from the beginning of their amputation, and they're not athletes. They don't want to go snowboard, 50 days like I do, and they don't want to run marathons, but they still put themselves out there a little bit, and they climbed walls and they got up walls. And it's cool to see what people are capable of, and it's cool to see what you're capable of. No matter where you're at on the amputation spectrum, you're pretty capable if you want to be, and being around other people that are dealing with the same things, but maybe some are in a worse spot than you, maybe some are in a better spot, and seeing how they kind of go about attacking the day is very helpful, and it's very inspiring as well. As an amputee myself, it's inspiring to go and see people that I never expected would be able to get to support group, let alone climb up a wall. And they're climbing up a wall a couple times is pretty impressive. And so as much as I felt 10 years ago that I didn't need all of these things, I understand now the value that they have, and I'm a big advocate of support groups and of relating with other amputees and getting out there and sharing your story. If you're a mobility prosthetics patient and you don't have information about the support group that meets here in Salt Lake and you would like it, feel free to shoot me an email. That is typically how we send out all the information about the support group, is through an email list every month. And so Spencer sends out an email kind of going through the rundown of what the activity will be that month or what the speaker will be that month and the location, time, etc. So send me that email. There are also, I know a lot of our mobility patients are in surrounding areas and maybe can't get to Salt Lake. I'm working on creating groups up north in like the Ogden area and also down in Utah County as well. But in the meantime, this group does offer Zoom links as well. So if you can't get to Salt Lake and you can't get to, it's in Sugar House. If you can't get to Sugar House, then there is a Zoom link, so you could still attend virtually if you wanted to. And so if that's something you're interested in, again, shoot me an email and we'll get you added to the list and make sure that you have all the information every month. Thanks. We'll see you next time.